Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our May Friday Night Fights with George. What's going on, George?
Wow. It's been a month, but this feels like deja vu.
What's new in the last month, JR?
Well, let's see here. During our Sterling rendition of the last Friday Night Fights, I could have told you that for an alternative take. Go back to the podcast number 161, where Spider History takes a special look at Marvel Team Up number 40.
Wow. There you go. I can never remember the episode numbers. Kind of like as I get older, I have problems remembering the ASM numbers.
You know what I want to know, JR,
Yeah.
when you covered that, did we get the anecdotal history of the Sons of the Tiger? Did we get more of a story on them, or were you just like, there's issues, crap, and then you paraphrased people saying things they didn't say, and then you moved on?
Well, I think I focused a little bit. This was actually occurred in December 2011, so it was a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
I think I focused more on some of the let's say the less than politically correct verbiage of Mr. Mantlo at the time, including slant eyes.
Oh, did you say that? Oh, man.
And a few other gems.
Wow. This issue, I don't think we've ever done an Untold Tales of Spider-Man on Friday Night Fights, have we, George? I don't think we have.
I don't believe so. I know we've done them before for Spider Jeopardy.
Yeah, but I like this series. I don't
think we've done this before. Yeah.
So, Untold Tales came out in what year is this? December 1st, 1996. This came out.
Yeah, I was going to say the mid 90s.
Yeah, sorry, it's only 99 cents. That's rare.
And I enjoyed this despite Kurt Busiek writing it. Normally, I don't like Busiek all that much, but this was pretty good. It didn't wreck continuity. Or anything like that. Busiek was very careful, to keep it within the confines of that. And so there were actually a lot of good stories in this.
Radioactive Man is who Spider-Man's fighting in this one. So let's get to it.
Yes, Radioactive Man. Mm-hmm. So actually, let me get over to the issue.
Okay. Is this going to be the same Radioactive Man that was part of Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts team, or a different one?
I think it's the same one.
Yeah, Chen Lu, I think, is the same guy. Yeah, I think it was the same dude. I don't think Chen Lu has like a legacy fill-in or anything. I think it's just always
Vinkman also loves Untold Tales. Yeah, this one was in the omnibus.
Yeah,
they put out a nice omnibus. I think there's like 26 issues or 25 issues. 25. Yeah.
So this is like 6 years or so, JR, after Parallel Lives.
Something like 6 years, six or 7 years. I think I think Parallel Lives came out in '89 around the wedding.
So this will be about 6 or 7 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a story set in Spidey's history where Mary Jane knows that he's Spider-Man. She this covers the moment where she sees him heading into his apartment dressed as Spider-Man. So she knows his secret, and she doesn't really know how to feel about it. We're not going to focus too much on this one, but I like this in the issue. We see like an early Mary Jane and how she's rationalizing, the person that she knows that is Peter Parker and what she knows of Peter Parker against the things that she sees Spider-Man do, which are amazing to her, so she's trying to, I guess, like get right with that in her head, figure that out. But either way, Spider-Man and Peter Parker are very much on her mind at this time after she's discovered this. So, there's a big field trip, or not a field trip. It's I think it's just Aunt May and Aunt Anna. They're at the museum. They're sitting there with a giant dinosaur skeleton. And I know that people were reading this at the time, and they saw the giant dinosaur skeleton, and they were like, "Oh please,
Stegron,
let me turn the page and let this be a Stegron comic." No. Alas, that is not the world we live in.
Stegron didn't appear until Marvel Team Up, but this is in the Ditko era, so it wouldn't have been possible. He's not been introduced yet.
Yes. Technically, Vincent Stegron is still a dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Out somewhere studying reptiles and fascinated with dinosaurs the same way I was when I was a kid. So Spider-Man and the Radioactive Man, they're fighting, and their fight spills over into the museum, shattering bones, sending bones everywhere. And Radioactive Man is actually a pretty powerful villain.
Yeah.
He takes, he's fought Thor on his own before. He's a guy that can like take on really powerful people or whole teams.
Right.
At times.
It's funny. Hornacek says in a message board episode years ago, someone asked who would be the worst Marvel character to have as a neighbor, and George's answer was Radioactive Man.
Radioactive Man, yeah. I remember saying that, and I remember not even hesitating. I was like, Radioactive Man.
Radioactive Man, yeah.
I thought you said the Blob. I thought you said the Blob, or was that somebody else's answer?
I think that was Bailey. Bailey said the Blob because, like, he would be like that neighbor that has like all kinds of shit in their yard, like old cars and engine blocks and stuff like that. And he'd be walking around in his boxers the whole time.
Wow.
So yeah, boy, that's a deep cut right there.
Yeah,
that
goes the deep cuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, Radioactive Man would be the worst neighbor. Number one, you're gonna go sterile. If you going sterile is probably the best case scenario for living next to Radioactive Man.
Oh my God.
Okay. There's also the cancer.
Yeah.
To consider. But yeah, this guy.
Look at that hit. Ooh.
And losing your hair, obviously, too.
Oh.
Oh
wow.
yeah.
Well, we're both good.
So this guy has an interesting power set in that his body's basically a giant reactor.
Right.
He can channel it into concentrated blasts of radiation. He normally doesn't go full lethal. He even talks about this in this issue. He normally tries to only send out, like light radioactivity or force radioactivity, which I didn't know was a thing, but I guess, maybe I don't know what he's talking about there because, like, I guess he's talking about using it telekinetically, and I'm like, that's not really a thing. I don't think we have telekinetic radiation, but then again, I'm not a scientist. What do I know? I'm a tubby guy in North Texas. I don't know.
Okay.
I work in mortgage. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, they bust into the museum. Spider-Man's punching him as they come in, and then Radioactive Man, who again is very strong.
Look at that.
But you backhand Spider-Man across the museum, and then it's starting to shoot radioactivity at him, and I'm like, don't get hit, Spidey, because you're gonna go sterile.
There's no baby May.
Yeah, you're not going to have kids later on.
Right.
And his spider sense is going off because he's, spider sense saying, hey, by the way, don't get hit with radiation because you're not going to be shooting blanks.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, wait a minute, though. I mean, first of all, Spider-Man's got radioactive blood, and didn't years later Spider-Man take a juicy shot of radiation in order to defeat Moreland?
Yeah, but at the same time, he doesn't have an inherent immunity or resistance to radioactivity.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't. It's not in his power set. Like if you look it up and official handbook of the Marvel Universe came out way before that fight. But even if you were to look at, I don't think that they've even listed it on the Marvel Wiki or on Marvel's website where they have the profile for him. He doesn't really have like any resistances to anything. Like he can get injured and he recovers faster. He doesn't have regeneration like Wolverine, but he does recover at a faster rate. That's so he can get his ass beat again in the next issue, and it's still believable.
Right.
But he doesn't have any kind of like inherent resistance or anything to radioactivity. So he tries to web up. I'm sorry. What was somebody going to say something?
Walter goes. Little did George know that Peter made the costume out of lead thread. The Spidey seed is safe. Jeez.
Well, he makes reference later on in this fight to having made like lead webbing. So
yeah,
because he uses his webbing here on
Radioactive Man
on Chen Lu. Yeah, I was trying to use their real names if I know their real names on Chen Lu, and he just kind of laughs it off and melts the webbing with his by superheating his body with radioactivity. Literally, there's nothing this guy can't do.
No, he looks like the Kingpin Green there.
The only thing he can't do probably is have kids. But past that, I mean, like he could cook a hot dog on his on his arm.
Well, that wasn't where I was thinking that he'd be cooking one, but okay, that'll work.
That's because you're a terrible human being.
That's true.
They are.
But yeah, a terrible human being.
Well, you're both terrible. I mean,
okay. So Radioactive Man lifts up something. There we go.
Yeah, he lifts up a big display.
Okay.
And he hurls it at Spider-Man. Spider-Man dodges it, but suddenly it blocks the exit to the museum. And now Aunt Anna and Mary Jane are trapped in there with a bunch of other people who are like, "Oh God, we're all gonna die." So he blocks the exit and backhands Spidey again. Spidey's got to be getting tired of that.
Oof.
Of getting manhandled. And Spider-Man throws like a caveman dummy, like a caveman mannequin from like the caveman display there. Throws a caveman at the guy.
I forgot about this. When in doubt, throw a caveman dummy at a guy.
and he manages to hit Chen Lu.
Yeah.
And send Chen Lu right into a lead-lined exhibit, like lead-lined glass exhibit of radioactive ore samples. And I'm like,
how convenient. How convenient.
I'm like, no, number one, no museum is going to have a big pile of radioactive meteorites that they have to shield from glass on display in public.
I just want to take a look at throwing the caveman at the dude. That's funny.
Oh yeah. Well, he didn't throw it at him. He hit it from behind with it. Yeah.
Used it like a bat.
Yeah. And that caveman's just like, it's a bad day to be a caveman dummy. I'm sure I'm sure the Geico caveman was probably reading that at some point, just shaking his head in disappointment and disgust.
Walter says that caveman display was sponsored by Allstate.
Yeah. So he sends Chen Lu into this radioactive meteorite, ore sample. How convenient. We just happen to have all this radioactive material there where no insurance company would ever cover the museum, but whatever. And so Chen Lu comes out, with all this new radiation soaked up, and he's like, dude, congratulations. Now you've really done it. You've sent me in all this, all these radioactive meteors. And now I'm going to chain react. I'm going to explode and take this whole city with me.
And he's mad because the font changed.
Oh yeah.
It's all your fault.
Even tell Spider-Man, it's all your fault. I'm going to go super critical.
Yeah.
Like a nuclear power plant and like Chernobyl and kill everything. Congratulations.
Right. Yep. Font change. Yeah.
Yeah. So he uses his radioactive blast to, punch a hole through the wall or through the floor, and he escapes that way. So Mary Jane takes a little time to, Mary Jane it up with the cops, talking, giving her statement and everything. And she overhears later on the TV, her and Aunt Anna have a discussion, and then she leaves home, and then she's like walking past a TV store and sees Spider-Man fighting Chen Lu on the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay. So Mary Jane decides, I know I should run right towards that. I should make sure that I'm definitely nearby when this guy goes super critical.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, we kind of joined Spider-Man versus Chen Lu Part 2.
I like the alliteration with that. Chen Lu Part 2.
Yeah. And Spider-Man has told Chen Lu that he's using lead-laced webbing, and that it took him all afternoon to whip it up.
Yeah, and he changed the font, so he means business.
Yeah, so he means business. Yeah. So he webs up Chen Lu again, and once again, Chen Lu's like supercharged with radioactivity now after being thrown into a display of radioactive ore
and hit by a caveman.
Yeah. Being hit by the caveman is not what super.
I know, but
helps the supercharge him at all.
I mean, that's the first and last time Spider-Man ever hit a dude with a
Yeah, nailed that goo.
Funny.
He webs Chen Lu up, and oops, even the lead-laced webbing melts under the supercharged, about to go critical mass Chen Lu. So Mary Jane's watching the fight. Chen Lu throws a car at Spidey because he's strong enough to do that, and he can. I mean, again, this is someone who fights Thor sometimes,
right?
Or has in the past. Throws a car at Spidey. Spider-Man's jumping around because Chen Lu's throwing cars. He's got radioactive blasts. Spider-Man's kind of running out of options here on the bridge.
Yeah.
All the while he's like telling Chen Lu, he's like, why don't you just calm down and let me try to help you not chain react? And Chen Lu's like, no, we're way past that. If there was a way out of it, I would already do it. Right. I'm just going to go super critical and take everybody with me, including you. I hate you, by the way.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man, after he throws the car at Spider-Man, Spider-Man's like, oh, luckily the car missed that coal barge that just happens to be moving underneath the bridge. Oh, wait. Coal is basically like pure carbon.
Right.
And he's like, so his science brain kicks off. His science senses kick in. And he's like, I can throw him into the coal and it should soak up some of that radiation and make him not go, like super nuclear on everything. So sure enough, he throws Chenlu off of the bridge, hundreds of feet, down onto the coal barge.
How convenient.
How convenient. And Chenlu winds up in the coal, and sure enough, being buried in the coal manages to stave off the chain reaction. And Spider-Man is elated with himself. Holy cow, I did it. I did it. And Mary Jane is watching on, super impressed. Later on, they're all at a party. It's like, it's one of those moments where Peter can't do anything right when he's trying to do something nice. Yeah. They're throwing a party for a couple of people. Tiny and Jason, who I think were only characters really in Untold.
I think so too.
Yeah. And even they turn on him after he throws the party for them. But yeah, Peter's there and he's talking to Liz. Betty shows up and then she's like, she sees Peter with Liz, and so she storms off. He can't win for losing, but Mary, the whole we close with like Mary Jane looking over at Spidey's window, seeing the party inside, and she's thinking, "I'm not ready to date you, but you're on my radar, dude. I'm gonna know everything about you." And I'm like, "Spoiler alert, you'll be ready to date him soon enough."
She knows because she first saw him crawl out in AF-15. It was retconned, right? So she knows at this point.
Yeah. That's what we. That's what we see to start this issue, is when she sees Spider-Man coming into the window.
Right.
Yeah.
So, who's the winner of this fight?
The coal barge.
The caveman's not.
The random coal barge that happened to be passing by. No, I mean Spider-Man. Spider-Man wins. I mean, this is. I mean, it's an opportune moment. It's kind of a kind of a contrived plot device to just suddenly have something that the villain would be weak. But I mean, that's comics. That's how comics go.
It is. Yeah.
So Spider-Man wins using science.
And this is like a done in one. So I can understand Busiek doing these things to move the plot along. Yeah. Oh, look, the coal barge is here. Oh, look, this display just so happens to have the thing that is the kryptonite to the villain.
And honestly, he's writing a period of time in comics history when this stuff was standard.
That's very true.
When just having a coal barge passing by, at the exact opportune time was how comics went.
This essentially is a 1960s comic written in the 90s, is what it is.
Yeah, basically. I don't fault Busiek for it, really.
Chi-Town, what's up, man? He says, MJ having you on her radar, not a bad thing. That's very true. Hornacek says science is the winner of this fight. Walter wants to know, Tiny, who names her kid Tiny? Is a nickname or descriptive? Oh, Walter. Vinkman says, hi, Chi-Town.
Ask Bob Cratchit.
I don't think they named him Tiny Tim. I think they named him, I think everyone else just called him Tiny because, he had that.
Hornacek says a 60s museum in the Marvel Universe would have all of this in it. I could see that. Yeah. Bill Green says, I first read Spider-Man in the newspaper section, then the book and the record, then the coloring books, then cartoons in live action with Nicholas Hammond, Peter Parker, Electric Company. Yeah, man. I'm all with you, Bill. I got into it. Let's see.
Boy, Bill must have some age on him.
Hornacek says most of the Untold Tales were done in one. There was the Man-Bat subplot that went through the entire series, but that was about it. Donnie wants to know if the rest of Untold Tales is worth reading. I would say yes. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing game changing, but it's a pleasant read. It's worth your time if you're like got an afternoon to kill and you're like, you know what? I think I'll pull this up. I think they're on Marvel Unlimited.
They are all 25 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that day or two, you can read all through the series.
You see some Doctor Strange stuff in there?
Yeah, he did some one-shots. They were like annuals, and there was a Doctor Strange one, and I forget what else. But, yeah.
It's amusing how cleverly, I mean, it's amusing how, it is amusing how clever Busiek is in wrapping around these stories with the original Spider-Man stories as they occurred. Yeah, so it's like George said, it's not going to set the world on fire, but if you got some time, I think you'll be fairly amused.
Mm-hmm. All right, we will be back in 4 minutes for Spider History. So tune in for that, everybody. Thanks for watching on this episode.